Praise be Jesus Christ and Mary Immaculate. We find Christ standing before the tomb of Lazarus. And the gospel tells us something very concrete, that it was a cave. And a stone had been rolled over the entrance of a cave, a closed cave. In other words, a sealed tomb. And there is something about a cave that already makes us uneasy. Like we don't go into a cave, especially a dark cave, very easily. Because the darkness, the depths, the unknown is very scary. In ancient times, people used to speak even about the mouth of the cave, the entrance of the cave, as the way into entering into the underworld, Sheol, the place of the dead. And when that heavy stone is placed over the entrance, it feels like everything is finished. It is sealed. It is closed, as if death has had the final word. And honestly, this is how we often experience death. Something ends, something disappears, and we are left wondering, what now? What is beyond that stone? What is beyond that grave? In the time of Jesus, there were different ideas. Some believed that death was not an immediate final, that there was still something more to come. And this is where the story of Lazarus becomes very important. Because when Jesus calls him out of the tomb, Lazarus does come out. But he doesn't come out fully free. He is still wrapped in the burial cloths. His hands and his feet and even his face are bound. And Jesus has to actually give instructions, unbind him and let him go. This is very striking. Lazarus comes out of the tomb, but he is still carrying the signs of death. He is alive again, but not in a definitive way. In fact, we know that Lazarus will die again. So what is Jesus showing us? Inside that tomb, after 4 days, the body had already begun to decay. As Martha says, there was already a stench. It already stunk. And over time, everything returns to dust. What remains? Maybe bones? Scriptures even show us that bones were preserved and honored. Joseph's bones carried out of Egypt, the bones of kings carefully buried. But the question remains, we have the bones. Where is the person? Jesus gives us the key when he says, God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And some of these people whose bones Israel keeps were people who were alive according to Jesus. Because God is a God of the living, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. They are alive in him. So there is something deeper than what we see. And this is where Jesus says those powerful words. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. But what does that mean? Because Jesus does not speak about resurrection as a theory. He speaks about it as a reality, and it begins now. He says, remain in me. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life. Whoever keeps my word remains in me and I in him. And then after his own resurrection, something very important happens. When Jesus is resurrected, he doesn't resurrect the same as Lazarus. When Jesus resurrected, the burial cloths are left behind. The gospel tells us that they're actually laying on the floor, that the burial cloths are on the floor, and that the cloth that covered his face was actually folded and placed separately. The burial cloths that bound him are on the floor, and the cloth that covered his face is folded and put aside, sort of like the corporal at Mass. Why does John tell us this? Because Christ has passed beyond death completely. He does not come out like Lazarus, still bound. He leaves everything behind, and all the signs of death remain in the tomb. Lazarus came out with the signs of death, but with Jesus, the signs of death remain in the tomb. He has entered into life in a very definitive way. So when Jesus says, I am the resurrection, he is not just talking about the future. He is revealing something about himself today and about the kind of life that we are called to live. And here is the key. Everything revolves around love. The gospel repeats it. Jesus loved Lazarus. The one you love is sick. The one you love has died. He loved Lazarus. He cried for him. He loved Martha. He loved Mary. Lord, the one you love is ill. The miracle comes from love. And then Jesus commands us, love one another as I have loved you. But how did Jesus love? He tells us clearly, he received a command from his Father to give his life and then to take it up again. To give his life and to take it up again. To give his life and not to hold on to it, not to protect it, but to offer it. And he says, this command is eternal life. So here is the truth. Whoever gives his life will receive it. This is what Lazarus points to, but does not yet fulfill. Lazarus is a sign, a preparation, a forerunner, especially during this Lent. This gospel prepares us for baptism, for new life. But what kind of new life? Not just a life that continues, but a life that is given. A life that is not centered on self-preservation, but on self-gift. Because this is what makes the difference. Christ can say, I am the resurrection, because he gave himself up completely. And because he gave himself, he passed beyond death. He leaves the tomb behind, the stone is left behind, the darkness is left behind, the clothes are on the floor, everything stays in there. And love carries him beyond. And this is where we have to be careful. Sometimes we spend too much time asking, what happens after death? Is there anything left? Is there something there? Is it darkness? Is it light? Are people singing? What are they doing? And we miss the point. Jesus does not say, I will explain resurrection to you. He says, I am resurrection to you. So the question is not only what happens after we die. The question is, how are we living now? Because the only way to understand resurrection is to live it. And Jesus gives us the image, the grain of wheat. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground, it dies. It remains just a grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. This is the path, my friends. And so today, on this 5th Sunday of Lent, the gospel leaves us with a very real question. Is our life simply going to be sealed by a stone? Are we ready? Are we already living a life that is being given away? Because only that life, the life that is given away, the life that is given in love, that is the life that passes beyond the tomb. God bless you.